AADR conference. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to maybe use just a few seconds to introduce myself. I'm Jing Xiao. I'm associate professor at University of Rochester, Eastman Institute for Oral Health. And my journey with AADOCR, IADR, I was a student member in 2006. And I attended the Australia, the IADR conference. Since then, until 2024 right now, it's almost 18 years, my journey with AADOCR and then IADR. So it's my great honor to be with you this year to help you to go through the reviewing process. And also your work is so important and it's really appreciated to organize the conference because the scientific programs you put together is really the highlight of the whole concept of the AADOCR, the annual conference. So we're going to actually get to some points, some new points for this upcoming year and some existing process. And we have about, I would say, maybe 12 to 13 slides. And we probably would maybe hold on the questions towards the end. And then if you have any other thoughts, you can put in the chat as well. So first is what is new for this 2025? So these are some new things and also is very exciting and relevant. So these are the first for the session proposal submission. So as you all know that we have a symposium session proposal, we have a workshop, we have hands-on, this kind of the proposal. And for 2025, when the proposal is submitted to you, and these are the very important points we want to evaluate. So for example, the first one is we need now additional text for the description of the field. Description must include why this symposium is relevant for the meeting. And also we want to specify and highlight the new research to be presented, if those are accepted. And then the second part is additional open text field about the questions of the diversity criteria. It's one of the item right now we need clarification. For example, how are the organizer is considered the criteria for the composition of the speakers, participants, whether they reflect the diversity criteria, for example, gender diversity, geographic diversity. So this is one of the very important criteria right now. It's in the 2025, the upcoming session. The third one is we have an additional question to ask to report whether there are speakers are external to dental, oral, and craniofacial research, which is very important as well because AADOCR, IADR, we want to be inclusive. And we actually also wanted to invite speakers from outside the dental field. So whether this session, this proposal includes speakers outside of dental, oral, craniofacial field, so this would be one area to indicate, and also the speaker's name and expertise. The last one is also a new, relates to the speaker itself. We call that speaker justification. So for this one, we actually now require a 5 to 6 paper citations that it goes with the proposal, which indicates the speaker is justified, has a relative expertise, there's a citation support the inclusion of speakers for this proposal. And the additional one is a brief bio sketch. For this one, it's about a speaker, but it's less than 150 words, representing why the speaker's expertise is there relates to the proposed symposium. Thanks, Courtney. We can get to the next slide. So then those are during the proposal preparation gets to you. What about during the review session? What are the new ones? So this is a very exciting part. We have made changes. It's for the scoring system. So many of you have been the reviewers or the session chair in the past. We were using a five-point scale, which we found there are some limitations when we want to distinguish the different spectrum of the quality of the abstract. So now we introduced the 9-point reading scale, which is also consistent with most of the current some grants review. So for example, this does line up with NIH grants review, the criteria. So what we have right now is in the high, the area, whether it's impact or quality, fall into those different spectrum of the pillar, we have the score of 1, 2, 3. Reflect, exceptional, outstanding, and excellent. The medium part is a 4 to 6, which usually we start as a 5, as good, and then you can move up or down the scale. The low in terms of quality or relevance or impact, that is from 7 to 9, which is fair, marginal, or poor. So one thing we do want to mention is reviewers should consider the strengths and weakness with each criteria in the guideline. And then the final session proposal, the abstract, the score is the average of all the reviewer scores. So for example, if you have 3 reviewers, the score will be averaged, and also the final score for that abstract will be rounded to the nearest whole number. Okay, so we're gonna get to the next slide. So during the final decision, so let's say we got the proposal in, we did the review, and then during the final decision, we want to consider a few things, of course. One is whether we accept or reject this abstract or proposal at some point for the annual planning committee. We do need have at least one score of 9 to reject the abstract. And also any rejection decision must be accompanied by constructive comments, because the authors, it's appreciated that the authors would have some comments that they know how to construct their next phase, or if they submit next year. So this is one of the very important aspects. To reject a abstract, we need to have at least one number of 9 and also accompanied by constructive comments. And the rejection decision, the abstract cannot be rejected because it is in the wrong category. So during the reviewing process, the group chair would first have a window to allocate, to take a look at those abstracts come into your session, and to take a look if some of them needs to be transferred to different category. Of course, we understand there's always a 1 or 2 or some abstract still stayed in the app category, but it does not really, after the reviewer is reviewed, does not really belong this group. So for those ones, we cannot reject them. So I would say at that point, the group chair would need to coordinate to transfer them into the appropriate category to be reviewed. Okay, so now is during the session creation, you get your score from the reviewers. How are we structuring the oral presentation, the poster presentation? So these are some stuff we wanted to keep in mind. First is the session title. So when we create a session title, we want to actually create a concise title that does reflect the content. And so this would actually help the annual session committee to recognize what is the strengths of this proposal, of this session you are proposing, and also what are the overlaps between different groups or between different topics. And also, we would, by doing this, we would help the attendees, our attendees, to come to the conference to find the session that is relevant to them to attend on site. And then the thing is, the last thing is the scientific group network name would appear associated with the session in the meeting material. So to have a concise title reflect what it's about, it's another way to promote the concept, the strengths, the highlights of the scientific group network as well. And then the other thing is about learning objectives. This is to actually be consistent with each scientific sessions. We need to maintain the ADA, the CERP, the recognition, because people actually would be able to obtain CE course credits. So for this one, we do need to create the learning objectives, at least 1 and a maximum of the 3. And then the last part is the reminders for upcoming deadlines. So here are some key dates. By September 13, we actually have a deadline, which is also on the website as well. That's a deadline for the organizers' proposals, the proposal organizers to submit their proposal to the group network for scientific or for the financial sponsorship, the approval. And then by September 20th, from different networks, groups, we would want to inform the organizer that whether their proposal is accepted or whether it's approved for sponsorship or not. By September 27th, that is the deadline for proposal organizer to submit their symposium organizer workshop, those organizers to submit their proposal to the AADR, the AADOCR, on the Scholar One abstract platform. So that is pretty much the absolute deadline for the submission. Okay, and then for the abstract submission, that is for individual presenters. For this year, it's going to be October 22nd. And then we are going by the Pacific time, right? So PT, the 11:55 p.m. So that's actually somewhere the second day of the ET, right? Okay. So yeah, that's exciting day, October 22nd. I guess actually I conclude my my responsibility right now going through the different criteria or the new things. Do you have any questions? Right now we will open the questions to the floor.
If there are questions, if you just want to raise your hand or put it in the chat, we can acknowledge it. Anything that's put in the chat, we will read out loud so we can make sure that anybody who's watching the recording is able to hear the answer as well.
And thank you so much for attending this informational session. Okay, we have Miguel.
Miguel Simancas from BHSR at UNC Chapel Hill. Thank you so much for putting this presentation together and all the new steps for this cycle. I was just wondering, based on previous experiences, sometimes we experience a high volume of submissions of proposals. So I was wondering if we could consider maybe for proposals, for future meetings, have a little bit more of time for reviewing the proposals. We've seen that sometimes it's a little bit of tight of a deadline for all executive committee members to actually review the proposals. That's something that we experienced at the last meeting. We actually had, I would say, close to 50 submissions proposals, session proposals to review. And so it was in almost less than a week. It was quite a high volume to send out to people and then for them to review and stuff like that. I understand that some divisional meetings sometimes will have less volume of proposals, but yeah, I was just wondering to see any considerations on that. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Miguel. That's actually really great, the comments or thoughts. I'm going to defer that to Courtney. So that relates to for different scientific group, when they have a proposal comes in, they are seeking for the sponsorship or some type of support. Right now, we are leaving the window from September 13th to September 20th, right? So that's 7 days. Whether in the future that could be extended.
That's something that we can definitely look at as it relates to the timeline. For a March meeting, we have very tight timelines related to the session proposal deadlines and the abstract submission deadlines as it relates to trying to get people registered if they're accepted. It's a very tight deadline, but we can start looking at different strategies to maybe have, like, it's already kind of a tiered review system, but like if there's like like different rounds of reviews for the groups and networks. It's something we can note and maybe look at for the 2026 production schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me unmute you. Oh, you? Okay, you're good.
Yeah, so can I ask a question? So for the session proposals for the symposia, so do the speakers need to submit abstracts also, or no?
No, they do not. So if somebody is listed, if an individual is listed as a speaker on a symposium, the description should encapsulate like what they will be focused on. Now, an individual can also submit an abstract to be considered for an oral presentation or a poster presentation, but it should be covering different material than what they have been asked to cover in the symposium. So the speaker related to the symposium, no, you don't have to submit an abstract, but if the individual would like to submit an abstract, they can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Courtney, follow up on that question. Could you please also maybe give some indication? I guess the question was what I was asking you. So sometimes we have the symposium comes in. We know that one speaker is on different kind of proposal, but down the line, we really only allow one speaker for one symposium. So if you could elaborate on that, just as a clarification for all of us.
Okay. So as outlined in the guidelines for session proposals and the call for abstracts, an individual can only be a speaker on one symposia or hands-on workshop. During the session proposal process, as the organizers are courting people to be a part of their symposia, I might come to Kimon and say, Kimon, can you please speak on my symposium at the same time that Connor is saying, can you please come speak on my other symposium about something else? Now, Kimon could say yes, tentatively to both at the time of session proposal. So that's the way it's listed. If both of those symposia or hands-on workshop are accepted, then the annual session committee will look at the duplicates presenters and then go back out to the presenter and the organizers for both, or we've had somewhere there's been 3 or 4, and say, you've been flagged as a duplicate presenter. Please work with the organizers to determine where your presentation will have the most impact. And then please help the organizers maybe find a replacement presenter for you. Typically, it goes very smoothly, and then we get great speakers, and everybody has a collaborative experience.
Thank you.
We have another hand up.
Yeah. With that?
Unmute.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Thank you for your information. I'm sorry my camera is not working. I just want to ask you those new informations that you talked about and presented. Is there any document there in the AADOCR page that includes both the old ones and the new information? Or is it, I look at it just before the meeting and I found something that includes only the old information, not the new ones.
So the guidelines for session proposals are relatively the same. However, the additional questions are listed out in the FAQs, and it's not additional requirements. It is just it's a different way for the organizers to provide the information that has been asked for in the guidelines for session proposals for their evaluations. So their evaluations can be more thorough, and there's not a lot of back and forth with the organizers. So the guidelines have not changed, but how we are collecting the information to make sure that the session proposals are hitting the guidelines or meeting the criteria, we have added the additional questions.
Okay, because I thought they are also important for those who are submitting those present symposium or workshops or something like this. And I just feel I want to send these ones also for those guys who are submitting their sessions for us in order to know how the process goes and how can they hit the goals and to get a positive response.
Correct. So I would recommend sending them to the guidelines for session proposals. The webpage that is related to session proposals does have the what's new for 2025 and list out the particular questions. But also, if they want to come into the system and then go ahead and begin a draft session proposal, they will see all of the questions that will be asked of them at the time of completing the session proposal in the system, and that will give them a complete listing of everything.
Okay, and for my group who are going to judge these proposals, those informations that you talked about today, because I remember that we received them by mail, but can we find them on the homepage of the AADR? That's what I'm after. I want to find this information and to guide my group.
Related to the scoring model?
Yes.
We can distribute that because that would be information that would be included in for the group program chairs. And then also it's information that would be sent out to the abstract reviewers as well. So we can distribute that as part of sending out the recording for this as well.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions or? So Courtney, if they have questions after this, can they still email you or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's both myself and I didn't get to introduce everybody to Connor, but you'll see Connor here. He's new to the IADR AADOCR Global Headquarters. He's the Scientific Content Coordinator. You can reach either of us at kskinner@iadr.org or croy@iadr.org. But if you want to make sure that your message is being seen, definitely please go to meetings@iadr.org. and you can send the emails there, and we will be able to respond to them in the order in which they were received.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Courtney. Again, thanks so much, everyone, for you to join us for this brief discussion. And we really would be very excited to see all of you at the next year's AADOCR in New York City in March.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your work for organizing the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.